This video is going to cover adding a basic payment option using Stripe. We're not going to be covering subscriptions in this. I have this planned for a future video, but for this first episode, what I thought I'd do is cover how to add a buy option that we can add to, let's say, the homepage of our blog. Maybe we have a new product we're trying to sell on our blog. This is a way to do like a one-time checkout. So in this case, I'm offering my cat Percy because I couldn't think of any other test data. So if we click on this, it'll take us to a checkout page, and you can see over here, it's running the Stripe session with a webhook listener. And if I click checkout, it'll take us to an actual checkout page for Stripe. In this case, I already have info for a fake phone number. I'm gonna hit cancel because I don't have a real phone number set here. But if I did, I could log in by having it text me. It tells me how much my cat costs, $14.99. Trust me, he's far more expensive than that. Vet bills alone will have you questioning your life choices. But we can enter the card information here, and if I try, let's say, I don't know, a fake number, it'll be upset with me, telling me the card number is invalid. But Stripe gives us a test data card that we can use, which is just a whole bunch of 4 2s. And then the rest of these numbers don't matter, so I'll just spam 4 and 2 until we get through it. I can then put in my name, the country or region. All of this comes standard with Stripe, and then we'll just put in a fake zip code. Of course, I have my login information here as dean@example.com. I'll click pay. Down here, the webhook will fire, and it'll redirect me to a page congratulating me on buying some stuff. This stuff is just information on the session checkout that we just went through. Now, we're going to try and add this into our blog here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Of course, it's also sending an email here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to our blog application. I'm going to start this app, and we can see where we'll add in the checkout here. I need to get rid of this route because it doesn't exist yet. So in here, if we log into dean@example.com with a password of password. We have the user info here. I'm probably just going to add it right below the user info for now, or maybe make a button right next to blog to, I don't know, buy Percy. So the first thing we need to do is the getting started page with the CLI. So I'll go ahead and I'll stop this and I'll bump up the font size a bit. Now this first command did not work for me. So when I ran this, we did the curl and then the apt-key add dash. This was failing for me by saying it failed to write the body. So instead what I had to do, I think in this pipe right here where we have the sudo key, or where we have the apt key, I had to add in sudo, and doing that caused the command to succeed for me. But in this case, I'll hit Control C because I don't need to wait for this to finish. Some of these commands might take a while. The next thing was to add the CLI apt repository. You can just copy that, paste it. It'll ask for your sudo password, and that's now added. You then have to update your package list. You can just go ahead and run that command, and then you have to install the CLI. And this command took a while for me because the download speed dropped down to a couple bytes per second. Once that's done, you can run the Stripe login command. This isn't going to work if you're using WSL though, because it tries to open a web browser and WSL doesn't have a GUI attached to it. It's a little bit different if you're running out of PowerShell or if you're running on like an actual Linux system. So in this case, what you have to do is run the Stripe login. Let me full screen this, and then -I for interactive. It'll then ask you for your API key. For this, you're going to want to come over to your Stripe account. In this case, you just go over to Stripe, create an account, create a project. And in this case, I have a YouTube project. And then you click on developers. You check the toggle to go to test mode. And then you come over to the API keys section. And this has your test API keys. And then you can just grab one of these. So in this case, I'm going to click try again because I just accidentally showed some info. Okay, now we have a secret key and a publishable key here. Let's go ahead and let's grab the secret key and let's paste it in here. So I right click to paste, I hit enter, and then it asks how you'd like to identify this device. I just hit enter again, and then it says you're configured with your account info. So now that we have that, what we can do is we can run the command that's running over here, which was a Stripe listen command. So I have to grab this, I'll copy this, or you can just paste it wherever. And it's just going to be let me full screen this. going to be Stripe listen forward to dash forward dash to localhost port 3000 /pay/webhooks/Stripe. You'll run that. It'll say ready. You're using the Stripe API, blah, 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 blah. Your webhook signing secret is this. Then you're going to copy this, the entire secret here, and you're going to come over to your other console, and then you're going to run a, what is it? It's going to be editor equals quotes code space dash dash wait end quotes Rails credentials : edit. And exit out of full screen. Click on this window so it focuses the right one. Okay, there we go. I still have my secret key base in here. That's kind of old news. Okay, and then what we're going to do in here is we're going to say Stripe : enter, tab over one, public _ key. You're going to have a private _ key, and you're going to have a signing _ secret. If we come back over to this other tab where we ran this, it told us this is our signing secret. So we'll do a space and we'll paste in our signing secret. We'll then grab our publishable key. We'll put this under the public key. We'll grab the secret key. We'll put this under the private key. We'll hit Control S, and then we'll close this. And then this window should say file encrypted and saved. We now have Stripe installed and we have our credentials set up. Next step is going to be to add the gems. For this, we're going to run a bundle add command. We're going to add Stripe, and then we're going to add pay. So that adds both of those gems. Now I don't fully remember what the steps were for this. So I'm going to come over to the pay GitHub repository. I'm going to scroll down because I think the installation wanted us to do to generate some migrations. Yeah, right here. So this is the command we need. So we need to run bin/rails pay : install, if I can type, migrations, and I'll full screen this so you can see this. So there is your full command, bin/rails pay : install migrations. And that will generate our migrations. Now that's done, we can go ahead and run a Rails db : migrate command to migrate the database. And then let's go ahead and let's add in this action mailer right here. So I'll just highlight this line, right click, copy. We'll come over to our config/application.rb file. And then here, I'll just paste this in below the load defaults one. And for the host here, we'll just say this host comes from http://localhost port 3000. I don't know if that'll work as the host, but we'll give it a shot. We can then run a Rails S. Hopefully it's not too upset with us, and we can refresh the page. That looks fine. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is come over to our config and our routes.rb. And in here, we need to add in a route for the checkout. For this, I'll just come below the admin user right here. I'll just say get checkout to checkouts #show, which is a controller we have to create. And then we also want a checkout success. And optionally, you can create a checkout failure. So this is just what's going to happen if you successfully purchase the product or if you fail to purchase it. And one other one that we can use in the future is just going to be a get billing, which will just have a show action. Once that's done, let's stop the server. Let's run a Rails G controller, and let's just name the controller checkouts. There we go. We can now run a Rails S command again. And let's come over to our checkouts controller. So we're going to go into controllers, checkouts, and then we'll full screen this. Down here, we're going to have to call a before action and then authenticate user. And this is going to need a show action, and it's going to need a success action. Now for the show action, we want to call something like current_user.set_payment_processor. And to do this, we need to actually come into our models and our user.rb. And in here, we just want to come below the notifications. And I think we have to call something like pay customer stripe_attributes : stripe_attributes. And then for the Stripe attributes, what I have here, I'll scroll down a bit. We can put it down here, I guess. It is just a method that takes in a pay customer. It has an object in here, or a hash, or whatever it is in Rails. I've been in JavaScript land too much recently. It has an address with a city and a country, which it gets from the pay customer. And then it has some metadata for the customer ID and the user ID. So we can go ahead and save that. And now we can come back over to our checkouts controller and we can continue in here. So we want to set the pay processor to be Stripe. Then we want to run current user.payment_processor.customer. I'm not entirely sure what that line does, but it was in like 4 different tutorials that I found. So I guess we're just going to keep it. We can then run a checkout session, which is equal to current user.payment_processor and .checkout. And we're going to enter this down. And this is just going to be us creating our actual checkout here. So when you get to the payment page, this is what you're checking out for. Our mode is going to be payment because of course we're paying for it. Our line items are, this is just like a list of your product prices, I guess. So to do this, let's create a test product. So we're going to come over to our Stripe page, or you can come over to your products right here. So dashboard.stripe.com/test/products. Then you're going to click add product. I'll call this one Percy Premium. Actually, let's call it Percy Platinum. Because this is like the super deluxe Percy, and we'll make it a little bit shinier. We'll just pick a picture for the image, and then we'll just say this is the super deluxe Percy Stanley Parable 2 edition. I don't know, just some random nonsense. So we have some filler text, and then we can, you can click additional options if you'd like. In this case, I'm not going to do that. Pricing details, standard pricing. We're going to make it a one-time purchase, and we'll make it $24.99. So it's a little bit different. And then we can go ahead and click Save Product. So that creates our Super Deluxe Percy Edition here, which has a ID, which is this product ID. It has an API ID, which is this price one. We're going to copy this price one. We're just going to paste this into our line items here. Once that's done, we can then declare a success URL. And this is just where it takes us after we finish the checkout successfully. By default, it takes you to like example.com, which is just an example website. Here, we're redirecting it to a page we're actually going to create. Now, I'll leave the success blank for now. We'll play around with that in a minute. Let's go ahead and let's create these actual pages. For this, we need to come down to our views, our checkouts, right-click, new file, show.html.erb, because we want it to match this action. And then we want to create another one, new file, success.html.erb. And here we'll just create an H1 for now that says success. And then on our show page, the one that actually matters, we'll make this the checkout page. We'll add in an exclamation because we're trying to encourage people to buy things. So we do a whole bunch of shady business practices. And then we want to do a render for a partial that is included with the pagem. So it's going to be in pay/stripe/checkout_button. And the locals here, it just needs 2, but it needs a session, which is going to be the @checkout_session, which of course comes from our checkouts controller. It's that thing we created earlier. Also, my tab size here is 4 instead of 2 for some reason. So let's go ahead and let's reformat this. Okay, there we go. Now, after the checkout session, we then need a title, which we'll just call checkout for now. And then we'll add a space here because we're not monsters. And then we can come over to our blog demo and hopefully refresh the page. And let's try to go to /checkout. Now, we are missing the city here because of how the user model is created here. So let's take a look at how we could possibly fix this. I guess you would probably want to take this if you cared and you'd want to create a new address, or you could just add this into the customer or to the user itself. So let's just go ahead and let's add it to the user itself for now. So we'll say Rails G migration, and we'll say add billing location to user, and it's going to have a city and a country. Both are strings. And we're just doing this sort of as a sloppy solution for now. You can, of course, create a customer info object if you'd like and assign it that way. But for now, this will just get us through the demo because you're really not here to see me create an entire system to make this random address feature work. So this should at least give us a way to store the city and the country. There we go. And now we have this checkout button. What we could also do is, I guess we could click this. But the basic idea is on the home page, we want a button that takes us to a checkout page. Maybe on here we list some info about the product. But for now, what we'll do is we'll just come into the home page. And next to the blog, we'll create a link to buy my super deluxe. We'll add in a TM for trademark, cat. And then we'll do a link to the checkouts path, I think is what it's called. And then we can try to go back to the home page. Oops, to the home page. And it looks like we need checkout path, not checkouts path. So let's go ahead and let's paste that in. Refresh the page. There's the link, but let's give this a class and set this equal to btn-success. Because again, we're trying to encourage people to buy things. So by doing this, it's green. That's a good color. So we can click on that. It takes us to the checkout page. You display some info about your super deluxe cat or whatever you're going to ship them. And then they go, okay, cool, I want to buy this. So they click on the checkout button. And then from in here, ideally this checkout button would take you somewhere. Unfortunately, right now it looks like it's not taking us somewhere. Oh, I'm dumb. The reason why it's not taking us to the page, there's no JavaScript, right? So like clicking on this button isn't going to do anything. We can even see here Stripe undefined. So we have to come into our layouts and we have to come into our application.html.erb. And in here at the top, we want to include a script with an src of https://js for javascript.stripe.com/v3 because it's version 3 of the API. We'll save that. We'll come over here. We'll refresh the page. Also, I changed this text to say buy now. We'll click the buy now button. Yeah, there we go. Now it works. So now it's taking us here. It remembers the phone number because again, this is all powered by Stripe. It's not powered by your website so much. So a lot of this logic already exists. And here you can see it's now $24.99. Of course, Percy only improves with age like a fine wine. So now he's worth a bit more than he was 5 minutes ago. We'll put in the fake number of 42424242. I'll also zoom in a bit and it changes the format, which is nice. We'll put in 4242 for that and for that as well. The name for this, I don't know, let's just call ourselves Percy Catson. Maybe the full name, and we'll say the chicken thief. Why not? We can come down here. Our zip code is still 12345. And I think at this point we can click pay. This should then say success and redirect us to our success page. Now, if we scroll up in the console here, this is the email inside of our application that would then be sent out to the user. Of course, you can find tutorials on how to handle email sending in Rails. But okay, now let's come into our success page because this is something I didn't really see a lot of info about. For this, what I did was I actually came over to the Stripe API reference and I scrolled through this quite a bit to find some of the info that I needed. Basically, your line items are your products, and you get a list of the line items in response after you purchase anything through Stripe. And it's going to be through this session ID. You can then grab a session from Stripe, and that session has access to the line items. Those line items can be iterated through. So I'm not going to cover everything this gives you access to. That's what the API documentation's for. I highly recommend reading it. Anytime you use any sort of API, this is how you're going to learn how to use it. But what I can do is I can give you a bit of a starting point here because I did throw something together. So inside of the success, and I'll even show you how I figured this out. We'll come into the checkouts controller, and in this, I'll just say something dumb like SDF in the success, which will then throw an error here. And then inside of this error, this is where I tried to mess around with it to figure out how to, I guess, make it work. So what I came up with was you can call Stripe, and let me see if I can actually zoom in on this. You can call Stripe : checkout : session dot retrieve. And in here, you can pass in the params of the session underscore ID. And that's going to give you most of the session here in a API response, including my fake email and my name. And then if we come over to the Stripe API reference here, and I zoom out a bit, you can sort of look through this, but if I look for like a sessions, and I click enter on that, it takes us to the sessions page with a example of the sessions object here, which has basically everything you can call on this. Now this doesn't give us the line items, but it gives us access to a sessions object. So what we can do is we can just repeat whatever we put in here in our success, and we'll just assign it to an @session variable. The other thing we can do is we can say @line underscore items is equal to, and the way that I found this out was I went to the API, I searched for, I think, line items, and it was something like, I guess maybe through here. I don't remember exactly where it was, but they gave me an example of some Ruby code. And what I did was I called Stripe checkout session.list underscore line underscore items. And a good way to do this is actually to call .methods on the sessions. It gives you a whole bunch of stuff. And then if you're looking for it, maybe you don't see that the line items are right up here. What I do is I call methods.grep, same thing you would do in Linux. And then I just do 2 slashes, and inside I just said, I think like the word line, just to see what methods there are. And that gave me 2 options, and then I saw it's list line items, I think. So what I did then was I just called Stripe checkout checkout, Stripe : checkout : sessions dot list underscore line items, which then I saw needed some arguments, and the argument there is obviously what session ID we're using. So this is just going to be our session ID from the parameters again. And after you run that, you then get a object in response, which has an ID, which includes information on the actual item that was purchased, which is very nice. So the way that we can use this is we can grab that same info, store it inside of this line items variable here, and then we can come back to the success page. And then on the success page, I basically changed this to say, well, I guess I had congratulations, but we can leave that. And I said, you just bought my stuff, except the first version I had was obviously a bit more explicit than that because I was a little bit happy to finally get this working. And then I said, your total was, and this is a bit hacky, but it was the best I could come up with in like the hour I had to make this work. Your total was the @session.amount underscore total, which is a field that gets returned with that JSON object from the session. .to underscore f and divided by 100. And then if we come over here and we actually come into our checkouts controller again, that's working. So let me zoom out a bit and refresh the page. So that is what formats this to be $24.99. If we actually close all of this and we just collapse all of this and come up to app views, checkouts, and success, if we just have the total amount here without the $sign, you'll see that it just has a $2,499 there. It's obviously not what we want, so instead we do this little bit of magic to format it to be $24.99. No tax included, of course. I don't think you pay tax on purchasing a pain in the butt cat. Don't tell them I said that. After that, I then iterated through the @line underscore items, where I said @line items.each do, and then I called it item end. And then in here, what I did was I said h3, and each of these comes with a item.description. And you'll probably recognize this description pretty fast if I refresh the page. It is the Percy Platinum, which is what we called it's the name of the actual product here, which is a little bit strange, but I guess it is what it is. You can then do a BR, and you can include the price of the individual item, because this was the actual total, and now we're messing around with the line item itself. Maybe you want to like itemize the cost of each purchase. So we'll do the same thing. We'll say item.price.unit_amount. Well, I guess we'll leave off the dot for now. And we'll just refresh so you can see what this returns. So this is another $24.99, which of course means we need another one of these 2F divided by 100s, which will then convert it. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to throw all of this inside of a container to sort of center it a little bit better. So that'll push it all over. And then after this, we'll close out the P tag, and then we'll hit enter. And then we define a product here. And the reason why I did this was because I wanted to grab the actual image that's included. And for this, I said stripe : product.retrieve, which allows you to retrieve a specific product. And then I just grabbed the item.price.product, which is a little bit backwards. I'm not a fan of this. There's probably a better way to do this, but this gives you access to the actual product itself. And then you can use what you learned from active storage to create a image tag. And inside of this, we can do products.images, which will be an array. And then you just grab the first one from that, and we can refresh, but this is going to be absolutely massive. And this actually needs to be product, not products. Sorry about that. You then refresh the page. The image will be massive. You can see all the details on his little grin there. So let's say comma and give this a width of 300 pixels, which is just the number 300. And that is how we resize it to 300 pixels. Now, the last thing I guess we could cover real fast is the billing portal. And for that, in this case, I put it in the home controller. Basically, you come over to the controllers, pages controller, and the home page. Or you could include a link in your drop down here. For now, we're just going to throw it on the home page. We'll put it like right below or right by the user info, I guess. But on the actual home page, we'll create a portal_session. We'll set this equal to current_user.payment_processor.billing_portal, because you can also create subscriptions, and this is how you manage your subscriptions. I'm not going to cover subscriptions in this, but it is a very similar setup. You just create another product, and you give the product a recurring fee instead of a one-time fee, basically. But you create this portal session in here, and then on the home page, in this case, home page, you just want to actually do a link to your managed subscription. So by the user info right here, I'll just create a link to manage billing. And this is going to take us to @portal_session.url. And then we'll go ahead and refresh the page again. We'll click on our manage billing link. And this takes us to the Stripe page where we can change our payment method if we'd like to, or we can update our billing info here. So I'll click on this. This allows you to set your address and everything. And then you can also see your invoice history if you have some invoices. But again, all of this is going to, of course, require a bit more engineering than what I've covered here. But hopefully this is enough to at least get you started on a proper billing system. And all of this is also tracked through your Stripe developer dashboard. So if we come over here to the home page, you can see my developers setting is toggled. So you can see the gross volume of my developer account, how much it's made today. Well, I guess yesterday and today. But this is, of course, test data. You can't just manufacture money this way. But you get the idea. This is very, very handy because it scales pretty well. The only thing you have to be aware of is, in this case, we're selling a physical product. If you were selling a digital download, you would then have to add in logic on your website to offer that digital download after the purchase has been made. Because right now you can't do that through Stripe. Stripe is just here for payments. It's not here for digital downloads. You can create products like this because this isn't a lot of server space for Stripe. But if I click on add product, you'll see there's no way for me to add like a PDF download or like a video download or something because they want you to host that. So you would then come in here, you do your active storage stuff from like the admin perspective, create the product where you upload the file. And then I guess after you do the purchase, maybe on the success checkouts action right here, you would do something like current_user dot products, and then you would push in the, I don't know, product dot find by name, where name is equal to my super cool PDF lecture for $9.99. And then you would push that over to the current user products. And then in the user dashboard, you would do something like current_user dot products dot each do product, right? And then you would iterate through it so they could have a link to it. So you'd have like a link to the product.name, product URL, something like that, and then end. But you get the idea. So this is sort of how you do your digital downloads, I suppose. There's probably a better way. I would check the comments. You know, the number one way to get feedback on the internet is to offer a solution and wait for someone to correct you. But that's basically all I wanted to cover with this video. We can, of course, go further in depth in future tutorials. I just need you to leave a comment down below. Tell me, I guess, what I got right, what I got wrong, what you'd like to see. And hopefully we can all learn together. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.